أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we will continue with our discussion on the 19th word. We will be reading the 13th droplet, and we've been studying the prophethood. The the concept of prophet, and then specifically how prophethood demonstrated by Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So that was the topic, and inshallah we will read the 13th droplet today. So before reading the 13th droplet, I want to give you a very brief summary of what follows. Okay? So the main structure of this 13th droplet, so that when we start reading, it will be easier for you to follow. Okay? So this text includes 4 main parts, at least I can see. The first part of the text will talk about what does the prophet ask for with his supplications, with his prayers and so on. He keep asking certain things, and there's also a theme, the way he lived, the way he interacted with other people and so on. So the first part of the text will summarize what does the prophet ask for, his goals, his aims, and then how does he ask for. Okay? This is the first part of the text, first a few paragraphs, and then it will follow the reasons for his supplications to be heard and accepted. In other words, how can we verify that these goals and aims are or will be fulfilled? So that's the second part of the text. And then the third part of the text will talk about how humanity throughout the centuries after Prophet benefited from his guidance and his role model, as exemplified by his worship and prayer and so on. So what does the prophet ask for? The reasons for his supplications to be heard and accepted, how humanity benefited from that, and finally it will conclude with a dua, a prayer that summarizes everything about the prophethood we studied so far. Okay? So that's the main structure of the text. That in mind, with this in mind, Yusuf, would you like to read it? So the reason I'm asking Yusuf to read, because there were some translation issues with the text. So the text you have may have such translations issues. We corrected some of them. So inshallah, Yusuf will read from the corrected text. So if you are following, please follow carefully. You will catch some differences. Okay.
13th droplet. At 12th, it was talking about prophet's supplication. Now as a follow-up, what does he want? This pride of the human race, who, taking behind him all the eminent of mankind, stands on top of the world and raising up his hand is praying. What is this unique being who is truly the glory of the cosmos seeking? Listen, he is seeking eternal happiness. He is asking for eternal life. He is asking for reunion. He wants paradise. And he asks all these by invoking all the sacred divine names, which display their beauty and decrease in the mirrors of beings. Even if there were not countless other reasons for the fulfillment of those requests, such as mercy, grace, wisdom, and justice, a single instance of that being's prayer would have been sufficient for the construction of paradise, the creation of which is as easy for the divine power as the creation of the spring. Yes, just as his messengership was the reason for the opening of this place of examination and trial, so too his worship and servitude to God were the reasons for the opening of the other world. Would the perfect order observed in the universe, which has caused scholars and the intelligent to pronounce it is not possible for there to be anything better than what exists, and the faultless beauty of art within mercy, and the incomparable beauty of dominicality would then permit the ugliness, the cruelty, the lack of order by not hearing the most important and the most necessary wishes as if they were unimportant, and not understanding them and not carrying them out, while he hears and responds to the least significant, the least important desires and voices. God forbid, 100,000 times, God forbid. Such a beauty cannot accept such an ugliness. It cannot become ugly. And so, my imaginary friend, that is enough for now. We must return. For if we remain 100 years in this age, referring to in our imaginary journey, we were going back to the era of bliss, like 14 centuries ago.
A few droplets ago, we said, let's imagine we go to his time.
To Arabian Peninsula in 600. So this one. So that is enough for now. We must return. For if we remain 100 years in this age in the Arabian Peninsula, we still would only completely comprehend 1/100th of the marvels of that being's duties and the wonders he carried out, and we would never tire of watching him. Now come, we shall look at the centuries that we will pass while coming back. See how each has opened like a flower through the effulgence it has received from that sun of guidance. They have produced millions of enlightened fruits, like Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i, Abu Bayezid Bistami, Shah Gailani, Shah Naqshband, Imam Ghazali, and Imam Rabbani. But postponing the details of our observations to another time, we must recite some salawat for that displayer of miracles and bringer of guidance, which mention a number of his certain miracles. And this is the salawat that we are reading its translation. Endless peace and blessings be upon our Master Muhammad والسلام, to the number of the good deeds of his community, to whom was revealed the all-wise criterion of truth and falsehood, from one most merciful, most compassionate, from the sublime throne, whose messengership was foretold by the Torah and Bible, and told by wondrous signs, the voices of jinn, saints of men, and soothsayers, at whose indication the moon split, our Master Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him thousands and thousands of times, to the number of breaths of his community, at whose beckoning came the tree, on whose prayer rain swiftly fell, and whom the cloud shaded from the heat, who satisfied 100 men with his food, from between whose fingers 3 times flowed water like spring of Kawthar, and to whom God made speak the lizard, the gazelle, the wolf, the torso, the arm, the camel, the mountain, the rock, and the clod. The one who made the ascension and whose eye did not waver. Our Master and Intercessor Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him thousands and thousands of times, to the number of the letters of the Quran formed in the words, represented with the permission of the Most Merciful in the mirrors of the airwaves, and the reciting of all Quran's words by all reciters from when it was first revealed to the end of time. And grant us forgiveness and have mercy on us, O God, for each of those blessings. Ameen.
So should we read the dua from Egyptian now or maybe later?
Maybe later,
Yeah,
as
okay.
an example.
Jazakallah khairan. So I will also, before we start discussing, we I will give a very quick summary of the text as I see it, right? The big picture. And then maybe we can dive into details, inshallah. Okay. So we started with the text started with saying that the prophet's aims, goals, as exemplified in his prayers, the supplication, are eternal life and happiness. And then we see that he understands that his humanity is not suited, it's not for this life, and he asks for another life, quote unquote paradise. And the text also says that this is not what he's asking for. His supplication is not the wishful thinking that relies on imagination. His feet are on the ground, meaning he understands his existence, his needs, and how these needs are constantly fulfilled. And he asks from the term in the original text is Arsh-e Azam. Maybe we can translate it as the great throne. He asks from the great throne, meaning he realizes that the sustainer is not of kind of this universe. And then the text said he looks at the qualities manifested in this life, quote unquote divine names, and shapes his supplications. So what he asks, what his goals are, and so on, based on them, what he experienced, these qualities. And then what we observe in this universe, all these qualities we see in the existence, the divine names, necessitate the acceptance of this supplication. Okay? So again, I'm summarizing what we read. Finally, we also talked about all great scholars and the students of the Prophet across the centuries have benefited from his methodology, as I mentioned right now, and his role model to apply what they learned from him in their lives and the lives of their students. Meaning, text also give an example of how we benefit from his supplications, right? By listing certain scholars and so on. So that was the quick summary as I see the text. With all these in mind, let's take a deeper dive. And who wants to start with sharing their own, maybe quick thoughts, bigger picture comments? Please go ahead, Yusuf.
So when studying the text, then as a follow-up to last week, we should try to see dua of the prophets, how it differs from my dua, and how I can benefit from his dua. So I guess this might be a good place to start from. When I make dua, what do I tend to ask? Because generally, when we even hear prophets' duas, be painted with our understanding of dua as well. Like for example, even when we hear about prophets' marriages, what do? Like we have a concept of marriage for whatever purpose, and then we apply the same to prophets' marriages. Although it was supposed to be the other way around. I was supposed to learn from him to update mine. So like right now here for supplication, let's do the same.
And this is a very great point, and that's the exact reason. Like when I summarized, I'd use the words aims, goals, to emphasize that. Like when we say, I have these goals in life, these are my aims. Like Natalia is trying to do PhD right now. That's her main goal in life, right? But the text gives us some other examples, the goals of life, as we learn from the prophet. Prophet was not asking for, let's say, becoming a good leader or having a really strong nation or being, really good in certain sciences or whatever. But he was asking for reunion with the God, meeting with the God, whatever it means. He's asking for eternal happiness, eternal bliss. He asking for forgiveness and so on. These are his goals. Like, what are your aims in life? Or being forgiven and, reaching to paradise. So we should take this as a role model to readjust our goals. Natalia, please. By the way, I assumed you finished because you stopped. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
So this is tangential to it, like to what you were saying, but still related to the droplet. And also a little bit of a confusion that I still had from the 12th droplet. And it's this sentence that says, yes, just as his messengership was the reason for the opening of this place of examination and trial. I felt like on the 12th droplet it was saying something like his supplication was the reason for the creation of the like heaven. And I feel like on in these discussions we've been able to go through things and reach conclusions in a very, like, I want to like a doubtless, like, oh, there's no doubt in my mind that this is the right conclusion. It made sense all the way, and like this is the only conclusion I can think of. And I feel like I'm missing that. Like I'm missing like that feeling of a necessary conclusion that I can bear witness to, that his messengership or his dua is the reason for the dunya and the akhirah. Like, is that something that we can expand on? Maybe today that's the plan, or
No, that's a plan for today. For
that's
sure. Yes. Yeah. Should we start from there, or should we start from the how he asks? It may also, maybe pave the road for understanding your question. But let's collect all questions, comments, like a first round, and then we can start discussing any other comments. This is a very important one, and inshallah we will touch upon that, either first or second. Any other comments, questions? Nothing. Okay, let's start with the structured text. Structured. So let's start with what he asked and how he asked part first. So we said, the text says he's seeking eternal happiness. He's asking for eternal life. He's asking for. So this reunion, it's like in the original, the term is liqa, which means meeting with your teacher, for instance, or having like a face-to-face conversation with someone that you learn things, like especially in the sciences of hadith. This is how it is used, the term liqa. So in this context, is also like meeting your maybe Rab, meeting your teacher. And then it says he wants paradise. And okay, let's start from here. Any comments about that part? Initial comments? Otherwise, I can share some thoughts. Oh yeah, please.
Just since no one's saying anything, let me just throw.
Oh, you don't have to.
I feel like I should.
Microphone like this and move your arm.
I will throw both hands. I just started speaking. What do you mean? Okay. Because I always do this. Okay. Sorry. So I mean, before we continue, I wanted to, I guess in this first paragraph, the first thing is, what does he want? I don't know, that just captured my attention. Like, what does he want? And I'm like, why am I even asking what does this person want? To me, it feels like a very
You
sorry.
continue, continue. Let me hold that for you.
Okay. I'm just I don't know. For me, the question just hits me like, what does he want? It captures my attention. Like, why do I even care what this person wants? And why is it important what he wants? Why am I even asking what he wants? You know, let's say like we've been studying the Prophet for the past 13 droplets, 12 droplets. You know, there's always the message and what we can gain from it. We see like, oh, his worship, his like his teachings, the students, all these different things. But now we're talking about what does he want? I guess to me it feels very human. Okay, what does he want? I want things. Prophet wants things. Apparently he's a human. He also wants things. He wasn't just like I don't know, a robot. So I mean that captures my attention. Like, why do I care what he wants? Maybe because he's a human just like me, I guess. I don't know if Nursi is emphasizing that. And then the other thing, it's, you know, the pride of the human race. The eminent of mankind stands on the he says the glory of the cosmos. Like, I mean, he gives it different things, but the glory of the cosmos. And I'm thinking, should there be a glory of the cosmos? Like, is it necessary that there is one unique being who is the glory of the cosmos? I don't know. I think there's another question which I think it's easy to just gloss over, but you know, why is there even a glory of the cosmos? Should there be a glory of the cosmos? And then I guess like what would be a glory of the cosmos? Like that, it just makes me think of that question. Like, why is it important that this person that we're asking, what does he want? He's also apparently the glory of the cosmos for some reason. And this should be important to me. He's the pride of the human race. I mean, the pride of the human race is like, you know, what am I proud of? Let's say the Eagles. You know, the Philadelphia Eagles are the pride of I don't know, our city. But then you say the pride of the human race, and I should feel some pride, I guess, or some like, oh, joy, this was this person. So it should be, again, I guess like it should be more human for me. Like I should have like a human relationship with this person. And then the second paragraph, you know, he is seeking eternal happiness. He is asking for eternal life to meet with God. I'm like, wait a second, these are all the things I want too. Like not just him, but I also am seeking eternal happiness. I want eternal life. I also want to meet God. I also want paradise. And he wants all the sacred divine names which display their beauty and decrease in the mirrors of beings. I mean, I also want this. I find it extremely difficult to maybe see this, but I'm like, okay. Again, I guess maybe Nursi is emphasizing the humanness of this all, but everything he wants, I want. I see that I want. And furthermore, we're calling him the glory of mankind, the unique being, like the pride of the human race. So apparently everything I want, he wants, and he has somehow found those things that he wants. It didn't just stay at one thing. Maybe he's the pride because he was able to reach them. So I guess there it starts making it more real for me, like why I should have this, why I should start caring about this person, or how can I have a relationship with this person rather than just saying, oh, he wanted these things. I'm like, oh, he wants these things, I want these things, and now I can see how he can be helpful for me. I guess my question, or I might like, I'm just trying to understand how it's more practical for me, and this is how I was trying to understand that. And I hope you heard me correct. Well,
Jazakallah khairan. Go ahead, please.
So, and also this will go back to Natalia's question as well. So when we were first starting these texts, there was an emphasis about when mentioning Prophet ﷺ, we were studying the collective personality of Prophet ﷺ. This was the phrase that was used there. So let's not lose sight of this. What does this mean? Let's remember. when we mean Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, we do not just mean a person with 60 years of life. What did he represent is, because whatever is being explained in here, if we just put it into this flesh and bone 60 years of life, wouldn't make any sense. But the value of what he says matters. To give an example, like if I say the universe hangs on the word, let me see. The universe hangs on this verse, and I am putting my finger into this text over there, which says, وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. And you then say, well, it's not the universe hanging on it. Actually, it is hanging on a wall. What would that mean? I do not literally mean that the verse is hanging on this paper and ink, but the meaning that this text represents is really carrying the whole universe. The universe is really being carried by وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. So when we say prophet's supplication, what is prophet's supplication becomes important, because it looks like prophet's supplication is the thing that is the cause of paradise existing. In this regard, then we need to go back to the very beginning when he says, how did he make his supplication? He was taking the whole mankind behind him. Was he? Not really. He just had like 120,000 Sahaba behind him, if we take it literally. But if you read it as when he was, as we were discussing last week, when he was saying, we worship you, we seek your help, his we, what does his we mean? The whole creation was actually behind him. Seeing that aspect is important, because you need to see it for yourself too. When you make a dua, a collective dua, who do you mean? Do you just mean for yourself? Or do you mean, even if Abdurrahman is not aware, oh my creator, even Abdurrahman is in need of you, and I'm asking on behalf of Abdurrahman that guide us to the right path. So now Abdurrahman is behind me in my supplication. Maybe he is not aware, but he is needy. So that sort of a comprehensive supplication is what is being meant by prophetic supplication. So this is why we need to open up this description, so much so that when he says he stands on top of the world, this is an important term. Like, as we will say, sometimes somebody makes a claim, and we would say your claim is not touching the ground, like you're making a baseless claim. But prophet's supplication is touching the ground, meaning it is starting from the experience that he has, and then raising his hand to, like here it says raising up his hand, but
Arsh Azam.
Arsh Azam, the throne, like he's asking from, saying that, okay, here I am needy, but I know that it's going to come from beyond. So dua is to be made to there. Why is that important? If I was having an interview with Abdurrahman for his job, what would I ask him? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? 10 years? This is what they ask, right? Why do they ask that question? Because the assumption is human should be in the pursuit of something more in their life. This is what human is. Human is in a search and should be perfecting themselves. This is the expectation. This is why those kids, babies, start asking all those questions. So now the proper question is, Abdurrahman, forget about as an engineer. As a human being, what are you searching for? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 100 years from now, as a human being? Where does your pursuit takes you to? This is the question that, what did Prophet ask? Okay, Abdurrahman is not asking such questions. Maybe he's just asking for, I'm getting this much money, so how can I get a better job so that I'm going to get paid more? I'm generally speaking. Prophet's question is, where am I going to be 100 years later? And the answer shouldn't be under the grave and you'll be dust. Like, he is asking such a question that when he says he's asking eternal happiness, we don't ask for eternal happiness actually. Like, in average, consciously speaking, although my humanity desires for eternal happiness, consciously, generally, I ask for a better house, a better car, a happier family life, and whatnot. None of these are, in and of themselves, eternal happiness. I am looking for those temporary happinesses. This is where prophetic asking is starting to differ. This is something to go for.
And so maybe we can tie all these comments as well. What does he want? And Abdurrahman says, I also want these, right? So that's the part the text says, who taking behind him all the eminent of mankind, the pride of human race. So what I understand from that is whatever he's asking for, what his supplication represents, it's true for everybody. He asks for eternal happiness, or at least everybody that has some consciousness. The people who haven't lost their humanity. I would say, as a human being, nothing I have here is enough. My humanity asks for something else. And it's not like, something more. It's not like I want more houses or more cars and whatever. No, my humanity asks for something else. I say, like, even if you give me the best car collection in the world, I would say I'm not happy still. That's not what I'm looking for. 5 houses, 10 houses, doesn't matter. I need something else. Eternal happiness. Right? Meaning the joy I get from things will not be transient. Because everything dies. Even houses die. Right? So I need something more permanent. I need permanence. That's what my humanity says. And the same way, the eternal life. He looks at the life of the humanity, not only himself, but and then the entire existence, actually, not only humanity, and says we need all these things, like our needs are endless. And there's no way that it can be satisfied in this existence. If I try to satisfy it in this existence by referring to things themselves, the money, a partner, or the house, job, whatever, if I try to get from them, it will not work. He sees that. And then he says, no, I want paradise, meaning everything being permanent. And the important part, though, yes, everybody asks for these, or at least needs these, consciously or unconsciously, but he was doing it consciously. He was saying that that's my humanity. I have all these needs. And just like all my needs are satisfied in this life, these main fundamental needs of mine should be also satisfied. He had this realization. Okay? Here comes this standing on top of the world, like stepping on the ground, looking at himself, everything else in the creation, and saying that, yeah, there are all these needs and they are constantly being satisfied. There must be sustainer. Somebody is taking care of us. Somebody taking care of everything. I see that, he says. Now it's not a visual thinking, right? He looks at the reality. This is what he sees. Once upon a time, we had a problem in the family, like a financial problem. My dad is so upset, and a friend of us, he says, go outside, take a piece of earth, right, in your hand. Look inside, you will see all these tiny creatures being fed. Do you think the one who's taking care of all these tiny creatures will leave you alone? He will take care of you one way or another. Maybe not through money, but something else, right? So that's the reality he sees. And based on this reality, he says, okay, whoever is taking care of us, obviously it's nothing in this universe. Hence, raising his hands to the great throne. Whoever is sustaining must be satisfying all these needs. So that's the supplication. Why this is important? Understanding this, it teaches me a methodology and approach. That's how I should live my life as well. Look at the creation, look at the existence, what you see there, and based on that, readjust yourself as a human being. Readjust your goals, aims. Okay, any comments so far? Oh, you have.
So you beautifully described like how we just take those things that are right in front of us and like think like these are the main things that we have to
Sorry, it was so hot.
take care of, and we're not thinking about eternal happiness and all of that thing. And that is very relatable to my own life and what I experience. But as I was thinking about this, and then like, and since we're talking about like things that are relatable to us and how we take the Prophet as well, these lines that Natalia mentioned, and it brought to my attention like these lines, just as his messengership was the reason for the opening of this place of examination and trial. I just have this kind of question as like, this does not feel anything relatable to me. Like I would feel like my existence is like negligible like right now. Cause like if like how is my trial or anything like that related to the messengership? Like how is that relatable to me? So that is where then I come to like, it's beautifully being described from the top, like how the Prophet supplicate and like how our aim, just as the Prophet's aim was eternal happiness after life, our aim should be like that. But then when it comes to here, it's just I can't like make the connection right here. If someone could help me with that.
Alhamdulillah. So that's the next point, inshallah. Great question. And the way you put it, I really liked it. Thank you. Jazakallah. Yeah, please add a question to that question, but don't lose the beauty of the question.
Okay. So since author is saying that his messengership was the reason for opening of this place of examination, let's put this aside. Let's assume we didn't read this sentence. If I were to ask the question, what is the reason for this place of examination is opened? Let's ask that question. Why is this world here? Why am I brought to here? That question. And since Qadir found the other one unrelatable, understandably, so what is a relatable, somewhat of a relatable answer that we have for that question? And I'm repeating the question again. Why is this world existing and why am I here? Okay. Because author's answer apparently is, it's because of this messengership, somehow related to that. Putting it aside, what other answer do we have?
To the best of my understanding, or like what I've learned is it's so that you can be tried and tested, and like for the like it's a test for Jannah and Jahannam, and like if you pass the test, you'll get eternal happiness and eternal bliss, and if you don't pass the test, like you'll have eternal misery. Like that's the examination, and it's to differentiate those people that stay on the right path throughout their life and those who don't stay on that like right path. But just to make the difference, like it's like individual, like just as it says, like no one is responsible for any one person's like deeds or anything like that.
Again, why did you say this?
So it's like in the messengership, so like it's not related to anything for me personally, like the test. It's just for me as Kadir, it's like my individual test.
So let's start with, what when you were asking, you said, Alhamdulillah, this text, explain it beautifully, how my needs are satisfied, even the meaning of my needs and so on, right? So let's unpack it a little bit, what it means. The text explained it, whatever. So the way I see it is, as a human being, right, without making any, commitment to any preconceived idea, meaning don't be biased with anything, okay? So my teacher told me this, hence I believe in that. My father raised me this way, so I believe in that. Forget about all these biases. Just as a human being, I look at myself and I see all these needs. And I see that I have these fundamental needs and they are not satisfied in this life. Nobody lives forever. And everything we have is for a few moments, a blink of an eye, and then my children are gone, right? So everything is transient. So it doesn't mean anything to me, right? It's a miserable life. And then Prophet comes and shows us an example, teaches us what these needs are, how actually everything that you need, the small or big, so far have been fulfilled. Like you need breathing and there's an air. You need water, there's a water. And so on and so forth. Like the plants, forget about yourself. Everything about plants, all their needs are fulfilled. Animals, even the molecules, they need movement and they move, whatever. Prophet teaches us. And then he says, I look at these, so there must be a sustainer. And then he brings a message from the sustainer, which explains everything for us, why this life is created in a certain way, right? So his messengership comes into place and explains us the point of this creation, why rain comes down, comes from up to down, whatever I couldn't, come from up, why it feeds all these plants and so on. What does it mean? This message that he brings explains. And now I start saying that, okay, it makes sense. Now I'm satisfied. Okay? And then he says, okay, according to this message that I receive, the life makes sense. And now through the light of this message, I see all these divine names everywhere, all these qualities, the mercy, what was the examples? The wisdom, justice everywhere, he says, and then teaches us how to see the life this way. Okay? And from that lens, now I say, even my fundamental needs, they will be satisfied, I have no doubt. Now something is answered to me in a way that I can relate. and that I can verify through my life. Okay? So when we ask the same question like this examination and trial and so on and so forth, again, the answer should be relatable, not memorized. So this, at least to me, that's what it means, that, okay, now it makes sense. The Prophet comes as an example, and when I take it as an example, when I try to implement his method in my life, it answers my questions. Now I should take the same approach when we try to understand this, the opening of this place of examination and trial, as Yusuf asked. My question is, why I'm in such a life where almost every moment I feel like I'm being examined and being like I'm part of a trial. There are always these choices in front of me. Should I choose this way or that way, and so on and so forth? What is the point of it? I have this question. And the text says, if you look at his messengership, you will get your answer. That's what text says. So how I read this sentence then, yes, just as his messengership was the reason for the opening of this place of examination and trial. What I understand from this, just like we did with the previous part of this text, and you liked it, I take it as through his messengership, his being a messenger, meaning whoever is sustaining us, sending a message to explain things, right? And through this, meaning the sending a guidance, this life will make sense. That's what I understand. Otherwise, without this guidance, the life itself doesn't mean anything. It will be pointless. From this sentence, this is what I understand. If there was no messenger, if there was no guidance sent, this life would be pointless. Right, please.
So to give an example, so maybe you have seen those Muslim convention events. It's not a perfect example, but just as an example. Like, conventions are good for what? Matchmaking, practically speaking, although this is not what they're meant for. But anyways, so let's assume you go to this ICNA convention, ISNA convention, MUNA convention, whatever convention that they do in America. So if you go there and you see that everything is ideally centered around the main speaker delivering the speech, because it's an educational event. And then if somebody comes and says, this guy's speech is the reason for us coming to here. Like, they have a bazaar there, they have a masjid there, they have this event, that event, but everything is surrounded around the keynote speaker's speech. And somebody comes out and says, this speech is the reason that we all are here. The way now Brother Bikram put it, I am in this life, and I don't know why I am here, how to make sense of it. Even when you say, for example, it's a test and whatnot, like, what test? Even it being a test requires the notion of education. So behind the scenes, even when we say this life is a test, the underlying notion is, I am here for learning. Learning what though? Learning sciences, learning mechanical engineering, or learning about my purpose of existence. So hence, the teacher teaching the content is actually the reason I am here. So the keynote speaker delivering the speech and me listening to the speech is the main point of this convention of existence. So his messengership means you listening to his speech. You can read it from reverse as well. if you do not listen to his speech, then the world you live in is worthy to be crushed. Because you are going against the purpose of existence. This is why ultimately, when nobody listens to prophets, rightfully, it is the time for the universe to be dissolved, which is qiyamah. When Quran mentions qiyamah, how it's being depicted, nobody who says Allah is left behind, which means purpose of existence ends there, then the existence dissolves. In your personal life as well, your personal qiyamah, anybody's personal qiyamah, the moment I say I have nothing to do with the message or whatever, life is purposeless, then your life gets dissolved at this moment.
Or like another example, maybe I'm surprised you didn't give this example. The classroom.
Matrix.
Your classroom, yeah. We can say that the existence of data science class, data structures, the reason for the opening a data structure class is the existence of a teacher who can teach data structures. Without such a teacher, there was no point of opening a class of the data structures or class. Let's make it more simple. The English literature. The reason that this class of English literature is opened because there's a teacher who can teach English literature.
So in this regard, then, when he says his messengership was the reason, then the notion that the message exists, somebody, because messengership of this person means the notion that student teacher, the teaching exists.
Yes.
So this is why we are trying to emphasize again and again, we are not referring to a 60-year of life here. Just like when we say this verse carries the universe, we do not mean the ink and paper, but we mean the meaning of the verse. We mean what messengerhood means and how it was personified in this example.
The fact that a textbook exists, fact that somebody can read this textbook and explain it to students exists, the fact that this transition of knowledge exists, we have this class on English literature. Otherwise, there's no point of opening such a class and put some students inside. You wouldn't have even called them as students. They would just go there, sit, have fun. Natalia and then Kadir.
I wonder why we can't look at this the other way around. Like we cannot open a class without a teacher, but the class comes first. Like I think the way I see it is the concept of the class is what like I don't know if it like if I can explain it any better, but I imagine that creation comes first, and for creation we need a teacher. Because the other way, it's like I'm thinking like, I don't know if this is wrong, but like God created Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then he was like, okay, I'm gonna make something around it.
So, okay, so this is I apologize for using the word wrong, but this is a wrong way of thinking. Like the point here is not trying to imagine God is thinking some way. Oh, let me create a universe, and for that, oh, how about a messenger? No, this is not the way. Like you cannot think that way. Even if you try, you cannot. It will be just, speculation. I look at my life, and the class is there already. So there is no historicity there. The class is there already. I am there. I see myself as a student. In this example, I see myself as a human who is in need and going through trials. So there is no question what comes first and so on. I already have the classroom there, and I'm asking the question, what is the point? And the conclusion, then, there must be a teacher. Otherwise, what I'm experiencing right now wouldn't mean anything. So that's the right way of, the contemplation.
And I do see that.
Yes.
I can bear witness to that like chain of thought. So I wonder if it's just like a specific way that Nursi says it, in a way that like literally it makes me feel like he's saying like, I have like, the world was created around Muhammad, but that's not what he's saying, right? He's saying that they appear like they necessarily need to exist together. The test and the teacher, the class and the teacher, the existence and the prophet.
So again, this is just an example, like the class and so on and so forth. You should just think about what exists. My life exists, and a necessary conclusion is that there must be a messenger then. So to emphasize that, this is the necessary conclusion, you would say the only reason my life exists because of his messenger, you would say. If you say the other way around, doesn't make sense, because your life is already there. You don't need to conclude that, oh, my life must exist. No, your life is already exist. Like, this is the starting point. So the conclusion is the messengership. Hence, you say his messengership is reason for my life, meaning my life necessarily needs a messenger, a teacher. So that's the right way of contemplation. Start from what exists, don't speculate, and go to what they necessarily concludes. Kadir was first, and then Yusuf, inshallah.
I have a similar chain of thought with Natalia. I do understand what like Dr. Yusuf was trying to make the point earlier about like what is the reason of like this trial and error, and now like I have a better understanding of like it is for guidance. But just as to when we're getting to guidance, like I can understand, maybe I can see, okay, Kadir's like existence is for guidance and getting to know his creator better. But since we come to that conclusion, how do we go from there to the prophet? Like that's what I'm trying to understand. Even if we go from the top to bottom to top approach, like from down up, it just doesn't kind of relates to me. Like I can go to guidance, like I can say, okay, this trial and error exists for Kadir's guidance or like Dr. Yusuf's or any other person's guidance and everything. But how do we come to the others, like the end of the conclusion that you're saying is that the prophet, he is the guide. That's no doubt about it. Like even in the class example, I think my purpose in the class is to learn. Like even if the teacher is a PhD, like the best of the best, or if he's not a good teacher, my like purpose in there is to learn. Like I guess like that's how I've taken always classes. Like I don't have that big of a relationship with the professor, but I do adore the professor. I know that he is the best at what he is teaching. But at the end of the day, my purpose in that class is guidance and like nothing more than that, I would say.
So the guidance that you and I receive in this discussion is a guidance that comes from messengership of Prophet ﷺ. So this is why you cannot decouple guidance and prophet. They're the same thing. So you are not taking it from the flesh and bones of the 6th year of life, tangibly speaking, but you and I still benefit from that messengerhood. This is why the emphasis, again, let's re-emphasize it. This is very important. I'm underlining it multiple times. We are talking about the collective personality of prophethood of Muhammad ﷺ.
Not messenger, but messengership.
Yes. So that distinction is extremely important, because otherwise I will think about a human's life in there, as in the example of ink and paper of this text, but rather it being with this meaning, this guidance being, if you like, symbolized in this person's life. This is what then we mean. So if you are coming to the conclusion that I am in this life, if that conclusion makes sense to you, I am in this life because I'm in need of guidance, because I'm a student. This is why Revelation starts with Iqra makes perfect sense, because I am here to learn. Therefore, I say, existence of this prophet is purpose of my life, because I am here to learn, and his messengership, his teacherhood, let me put it this way, his teacherhood perfectly explains why I am here. But again, Brother Birkan's emphasis was very important. We are not talking about a historicity, or if I was God, I guess I would first do this and that, like not in this sense. But I'm trying to locate why am I here, or to learn. Learn how, or this person's teacherhood is perfectly exemplifying why I am here. But actually with this text, author makes a second point, right? His messengerhood was the reason of this existence of this world, and his supplication is the cause of existence of the next world. This might sound too extreme, but I'm going to quote you a verse, and then you would say, oh, now it makes sense. But do not jump to the conclusion just because verse says so. We need to thoroughly understand both. The Creator says, قُلْ مَا يَعْبَأُ بِكُمْ رَبِّي لَوْلَا دُعَاؤُكُمْ. Say, what does my God, my Lord has to do with you, if not for your supplication? So guidance is one thing, your supplication is another thing. So it is saying that you are here in this existence because you will ask from your Creator. Your purpose of existence is your dua. But dua of what? Getting a job in Tesla? Is this the dua that we are talking about? This is why what he mentioned in here, he is asking for eternal happiness, eternal life, liqa, like reaching to the Creator, paradise. This is purpose of your existence as well. But Qadir's dua is not that dua. Yusuf's dua is not that dua. But prophetic dua, the exemplary dua, is exactly this dua. So if somebody says, existence of akhirah is because of this dua, you say, yeah, exactly. Because ideally, your and my dua, same could be said for this as well. Like the existence of paradise is for human dua. Which human? Abdurrahman? No way. Like he wants to buy a better car. Not because of his dua. Maybe existence of a better car might be because of his dua. But he is abusing his dua, or he's being lazy about his dua. But a proper human being's dua is the purpose of the cause of creation of akhirah. Who is the proper human that we are talking about? Then we go back to Prophet. So all those, I understand that rightfully those questions come. These are good questions. But those questions also indicate that our understanding of Prophet is having issues. This is why those questions are good. Like by backtracking on those questions, we should try to patch the gaps in our understanding of Prophet. Because it feels like Prophet is just like Abdurrahman, like just another guy. And when I mean another guy, I mean a good engineer, a good something. But it's all about this world. Goodness in our perception is all in here, one dimension. He's good at math, like this sort of a good. He's good at human interactions. He never breaks anybody's heart. Prophet was such a person, but it was not one-dimensional. He was not breaking anybody's heart, not just because he wanted to be appreciated by people, as I do, but not breaking anybody's heart because of observing manifestation of divine names. So these are the part that we need to fix. These are the reasons that we are asking such questions. So I appreciate those questions. Let's use them for fixing our understanding of prophethood.
Inshallah. So on that line, so in previous weeks we said we find ourselves in need, and we realize that some of these needs are satisfied. We see wisdom, justice in the creation, and then we look at our future, which doesn't look like any just. I will get older, and somebody that I quote unquote created puts me in the ground, my children. They say, okay, you are too old now. Like after you die, I cannot even stand your smell. I will put you in the ground, right? And you rot there. That's the life. And we say, like, there's no point. I need guidance. So whoever put me here needs to give me answers. And I see that this need is satisfied through the scriptures that I see. But I also say that, okay, how am I going to live this? Right? And then I need guidance in a very practical way. Somebody needs to show me, just like, Yusuf is teaching this gentleman how to clean the carpet properly, right? Somebody needs to tell me how to interact with my children in a way that it will give me this eternal happiness, and so on. Comes the prophethood, the messenger, right? It makes, like, illuminates my life. Illuminates in the sense that, again, that it's coming from the eternal source. Every interaction I have now is an instance of this eternal happiness, and so on. Now, the next part says, so to his worship or servitude to God, his abdness, his being an abd, is the reason for the opening of the other or next world. So how I understand the way we applied for the first part, again, not in a historical sense, that, we have a great abd here, servant here, let's create the heaven. We're not trying to, imagine what God thinks, but rather I say, when I look at his worship, when I look at the example of abdness that he represents, right? I said, it makes sense. Like, whoever is satisfying me, now I'm returning my thank, returning my hamd to this, the sustainer, in a way that the prophet teaches me. And these, when I do that, when I start worshiping the sustainer the way he worshipped, when I start asking from sustainer in a way that he asked, just like we studied a few minutes ago, looking at all these qualities in the creation, or the one who feeds us from our, like, a childhood, please feed me again, right? This is the methodology. When I worship this sustainer the way he taught me, then I say my fundamental needs will be definitely satisfied with the creation of paradise, creation of the hereafter. So the idea of hereafter and the paradise becomes a reality for me. Only when I start worship the sustainer the way he worshipped, then I can say with certainty paradise exists. Eternal happiness, eternal life is there for those who believe. I say it with certainty. Only when I worship the sustainer, the Rab, the way he worshipped. So that, Qadir, to your question, the same part, like how I understand the second part, he worship or servitude to God is the creation, the reason of the creation of the hereafter. I say again, from my perspective, the hereafter and the paradise only exist, that I'm sure that it exists. It is real for me when I become a worshipper, a servant to the Rab in a way that he was. Without him, it will become something like a wishful thinking. Oh, I hope there is such thing. But then some doubts will come into my mind, and I will probably conclude, if I look at this life, what happening here and there and so on, I will probably conclude that that was just a sick joke. And when I die, I just die without his example of servitude to God. And this is what happens to most people, right? They say, no, this life doesn't make any sense. And when we die, we just die. There's no point. Why they say so? Because they don't have this example in their life. Go ahead, please.
So let's imagine a person who was sitting right there, since this is the empty spot. Like during this discussion, Brother Birkan makes a comment, and that person bounces the comment back. Brother Birkan says, oh, this was a good question. The topic opens up and opens up back and forth, back and forth. Okay. Then I would say, oh, this discussion, the food and everything is organized for this guy to attend. Because before this guy was attending, everybody was silent, nobody was asking questions and whatnot, and it felt like, oh, I mean, it's just a gathering. But as you see that one person bounces back and forth, and you say that, oh, it looks like Birkan was organizing the whole thing just so that the conversation opens up, and as the way conversation goes, you see the excitement of Birkan, and then how everybody else is also benefiting from this conversation happening. You say, now I understand why these discussions were happening. It was because this person to attend. When you say this, do you literally mean this flesh and bones to be in here? Or conceptually, such a being was aimed to be in this room? This is why it was established. The whole setup was done. This is being your conclusion after observing the fact. And then you say, yet, actually it actualized. A human being really came who really matched this purpose of the whole setup. But the discussion environment was there before that person appearing, after this person appearing and whatnot, literally speaking, in the sense of a flesh and bones. But this doesn't mean that, oh, Abdurrahman, you should also try to be like the guy who made the discussion fulfill its actual purpose. Because this whole thing was made so that you become like that person.
Okay, let's continue from there, inshallah. The last thing you said, Abdurrahman, you can be also like him. So the next part of the text is talk about would the perfect order observed in the universe will not answer such needs and so on. We already touched upon that, I believe. When you look at the creation, everything you see there promises that your fundamental human needs will be satisfied. This is what I see in the existence. And then he talks about some scholars. He says, okay, that was the case with the Prophet, his time. Let's go back to our time. So what I understand from that is then how am I going to apply this to my life? Okay. And then he gives a recipe there. He says, from the Prophet to your time, there have been all these scholars, the students of Prophet. They benefited from the Prophet. They learned the examples from him. They learned how to read the universe, how to act, and so on, how to worship, how to ask, what to ask. Now you can also learn from them. Like he talks about the chain now. Okay? So at least this is what I understood from this paragraph. Okay, so we have like 10 minutes.
So the paragraph that we referred to, shall I read it?
Yes, yes.
So now come, we shall look at the centuries that we will pass while coming back. See how each has opened like a flower through the effulgence it has received from that sun of guidance. They have produced millions of enlightened fruits like Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i, Abu Yazid Bistami, Sheikh Gailani, Sheikh Naqshband, Imam Ghazali, Imam Rabbani.
It's muted. Oh, sorry. Anyway, there are many things to discuss about that part, but we don't have much time. Like why he's talking about all these miracles, why he's talking about like this is a style of Imam Nursi that I don't see somewhere like anywhere else. When he do this salawat, he used phrases like to the number of the good deeds of his community. Sometimes he says to the number of all the atoms in the universe. Or here he talks about all the breed.
Can we ask a question?
Yeah.
What is salawat in the first place, and why do we make it with such occasions, so much so that with large numbers? What's the
please.
benefit of making salawat? And yes, there is verse which says, Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Indeed, Allah and His angels say salat to the Prophet. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, for those who believe, sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. So you should also make salat to him. But what's the point? What is salat? What is salawat? And what does it mean that Allah and His angels also say salat, salawat to the messenger? What does this mean?
And you are even almost like obliged to send salawat when you hear his name, right? When somebody says Muhammad, you are supposed to say alayhi salatu wassalam, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or another form. Why is this so?
What is the meaning of salawat? Now we are looking here. No, Sister Sarah should know, I guess.
Oh, she's the salawat expert, salawatologist. For the sake of time, if you have a quick answer for that, that will be great.
Salawat is showing our appreciation for that message. Like, because if Qadir came up with, let's say I was so much in trouble about something in my life, maybe some problem about myself and whatnot, Qadir came and put his finger on the problem of my personality. Now I said, oh, now I understand everything. Everything changed in my life. I corrected myself and whatnot. And I'm eternally thankful for Qadir's putting his finger on the exact point where I was having an issue. So I would say, oh, may Allah be pleased with you. I'm so thankful to you. So I would like to show this appreciation, right? So salawat is realizing the importance of Prophet's message in my life, showing this appreciation. What is the output of this appreciation? Because it's a dua. But I am telling to my Creator that, oh, my Creator, I am so thankful of your student Muhammad wasalam existing and bringing this message to me. I am so thankful to him. You'll also be pleased with him. But what's the practical outcome of this to me? I am reminding myself the importance of the message that he brought. So it is refreshing my ties, my connection with him. So that is the benefit of it to me. But what is the point of making it with those astronomical numbers? Because everything that he mentions in here, actually, if I pay attention to, like he is talking about Torah and Bible, I don't know, his signs, his miracles, everything in here. If I pay attention to everything that happened in his life, it's a source of guidance for me. This is why I say, oh Allah, I am also thankful to you about him because of how Torah and Injil, Bible talks about him. I'm also thankful to you because to the number of breeds that are being taken, because he showed me that every breed that's being taken is being given to you, given to us by you. If he didn't show it to you, I would think that it's natural, we breathe. So every breath becomes a tasbih because of his message. So for every breath that I am hearing, they remind me of you because of his message. So as many of those breeds, I make salawat to him. So these huge numbers come from how encompassing this message could have been in my life.
So then, in a nutshell, salawat is a reminder to us, first of all, the value of the Prophet and his message, is a quick review of this message, what it brought to us, how it changed our lives, how it changed every breed of us, and then being thankful for that. It's like a relocating yourself with his guidance. Every time you take a, give a salawat, say salawat, you said, oh God, I'm relocating myself in a way I learned from your messenger, Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And now I'm let's say, I'm on the right path. Thank to him. Okay, so quick take-home messages. What we studied today, like my summary. One, we said Prophet, through his messengership, teaches us how to make sense of the existence and our lives. Okay? Through his messengership, teaches us how to make sense of our lives. And how it works, he shows us all our needs and how they are satisfied. And through this relationship, the need, satisfaction, this fulfillment of this need, then we learn about the sustainer. So entire life is nothing but learning, getting know your sustainer. This is what he teaches us through his messengership. And through his worship, the servitude to God, he teaches us how to respond to the sustainer, how to gain his pleasure, which is the key to the eternal happiness. This is my first take-home message. From his messengership, he teaches us that. From his servitude to God, he teaches us this. Okay? The first take-home message. The second, this is about the methodology that he applied. In the prophetic teaching, then, you need to stand on the ground, meaning study this universe, study the existence, start from what exists, as Natalia, exemplified to us. Don't start from what God thinks and so on. So on. No. Start from what you experience, what is real to you. Then ask from the great throne, meaning the source of the universe, sustainer of your needs. Whoever is sustaining me, you would say, based on what you experience. Sorry. Stand on the ground, ask for the great throne, we said. All the qualities manifested in this universe, quote unquote, divine names, as we see, promises what is expected in hereafter. So if you understand them, if you read them through the prophetic teaching, your current life will become the field of the eternal happiness. So you will see the instances of paradise in this life as well. It will become real for you if you apply this methodology. So these are two take-home messages for me. What the Prophet is, what is his role in my life, and what is the prophetic, the approach to make sense of my life from this text. Jazakallah khairan. Inshallah, next week we'll continue with the 14th droplet. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.